May of 2016. I'm back at Bachelors Grove. Been in town for a while, just got back from Las Vegas. Don't know how long I'll be here. A number of things have changed, not too much though. Yes, they did do some repairs on the fence. The gates, well, I saw pictures of a gate before I came. Apparently there are no gates. And as I predicted, and as I'm sure many would, they're not going to keep people out of here. So, supposedly I know the person who removed the gate. Not a very hard thing to do. They didn't chop it up. They just took the whole damn thing off. And so it's either in the pond or off in the woods. Little dispute on that, but ultimately the gate was taken off. So, for any of you wondering, are there burials outside the perimeter of the cemetery? Before I would say no. Now, as they reconstructed part of the fence, I don't know about the burials, but technically now the cemetery extends onto, well, beyond the fence. They were doing some trimming. Everything was going good. They haven't been in here this year yet. They better be back. Hopefully they'll honor the agreement many moons ago to help maintain the cemetery when they transferred ownership of it to the real estate management office. The Forest Preserve was supposed to help maintain. I did have discussions with them about that, both parties. And, things changed a little bit. That was good. Hopefully they will be back. It's a pretty quiet Sunday. Right now I'm overlooking the cemetery. I wish I could pan the camera, but don't really want to move it. I'm thinking about making a series of recordings where I babble and babble and babble on about the place. Love it or hate it. If you hate it, turn it off. And this can be paused. Let's see. And pause works. Yeah, so I'm up on this hill just kind of looking over the cemetery. There's only about 3 people in there, which is pretty slow for a Sunday. Supposedly some of the old jackasses that caused a lot of trouble in the past, they come out here on their Sunday still. I have yet to see them. The infant daughter stone has been, well, they're trying to take care of it, putting rocks around it, dirt. A little ugly in my opinion, but so be it. I got a pretty good idea who did that, or who started it at least. One of the jackasses. If the car noise becomes too much, I could always move to a different location, but right now I feel it's a pretty good spot. I really don't want to be deep in the woods. Let's see. I shall return. Some of this is kind of a more of a personal endeavor. Somebody once told me I should write things down and all that kind of stuff. And not much for doing that. Not much for the diary thing that way. It's a little time consuming. But maybe I should recall things from memory. And who's ever interested, that's fine. What are those people doing? Indian ashtray. Spent all those years cleaning up here. Can't be just throwing cigarettes on the ground, right? Normally I put them in my pocket. But that's just me. So once upon a time, back in 1996, and I'm going to tell this as raw as possible. Might have to turn on the adult feature of YouTube at times. But I was big into CB radio. Lived in the Palos area. And out there they had Channel 18. That was a big thing back then, in the 90s. At least for me. Ooh, more people coming. And I got kind of tired of that channel. So I, scanning around, I came across Channel 13. A lot of chatter going there. Now these are the days before any real text messaging and all that kind of stuff. Before any of that really caught on. I mean, internet was still dial-up. So, in fact, I didn't even have much internet back when I was into the CB days. However, come out to Tinley Park, which is obviously near Bachelors Grove Cemetery, if you've ever been here. And one night, heard over the radio, somebody was going to commit suicide. And that grabbed my attention. And I thought I heard the voice of the person who was going to be committing this suicide. Sure enough, I did. Called a buddy over because I heard the words Bachelors Grove. I asked him, well, what's Bachelors Grove? And he's like, well, it's a place that people like to park. Some of the CBers. Off to the side of the road, near this pond. Apparently this guy, he did something wrong, whatever, and he was seeking attention, apparently. And as the story went, he had gas cans filled with gasoline in the trunk of the car, and he's on the pull-off by the pond, radioing in how he's going to set himself on fire and blow up the car. Pretty dramatic. And I went to one guy, I'm like, man, aren't you going to do something about that? It was one of these like gung-ho military types that knew him. Like knew him well or whatever. Aren't you going to do anything? He's like, no, man. He's like, the guy's going to kill himself, he's going to kill himself. There's nothing you can do to stop him. And he's right. That's how it goes. People crying out for help are probably not going to actually do it anyway, right? So, yeah, it just kind of got stale. You hear a little radio chatter. Somebody went up there. I forget what happened, but obviously the guy lived. And then got to talking about that incident later on. And they're like, well, let's go drive up there some other days, you know, past this suicide attempt or whatever you want to call it, a little cry for help. So they showed me the spot this guy was at. Went out there late night. Had to be midnight too, whatever. Everything's pitch black, no moon out. And all I hear is frogs, you know, and stuff like that. Can't even really see the cemetery. I barely could even make the fence, kind of thing, you know. Got people walking around here. And guy's telling me, well, you know, you can, you know, go back there. I'm like, nah, I ain't going in there right now. It's too dark. And he started giving me these stories. Well, not really much in the way of stories. I'm like, so what's the big deal about this place anyway? He's like, well, supposedly it's haunted. That grabbed my attention because I grew up with some pretty cool stuff. I'll get into it at some other point, I guess. Said there was a ghost light people would see. Didn't really describe the color or anything. No, they're real vague stuff. And so yeah, we'll go back here. And then we ended up doing it the next day. Yeah, that next day, that really, well, pretty much, I guess, it changed the course of my life. So I was a camera geek. Look at that. And I had a Panasonic VHS. It's a reporter on it. It's one of these big guys. Big shoulder mount. Had the big swivel eyepiece. You turn it, cover one eye. I had that little teeny screen, little black and white thing. So I pulled it out of my trunk and started walking down the path. Across the street, did the path thing. Didn't film at that point though. Got to the gates. Yeah, average day. Nice out. October, I believe. Yeah, October. And just started doing boring filming. Kind of like this, right? Me babbling. But no, this was even more boring. So I'm just kind of walking around. Like many of the people are doing right now, as I see. Except they got phones these days. So anyway, walking around. I just stand still, do a little recording, pan a little bit. Usually I keep a little bit from the last view in view when I pan, and so on and so forth. But that's what I do when I go to a location for the first time that seems to pique my interest or whatever. So I'm over by the Shields headstone. It's a very large stone near the Fulton monument. It's east of the monument. Today it's tipped over. It was standing in the 80s. Squirrelies. Not squirrels. And so I'm just like, I got the Fulton monument in view. And right there in that little screen, that little black and white screen, I'm seeing like, I thought I saw something moving. I had it up, so I tilt my head, looked, then came back. It wasn't too brief, you know. I mean, I looked. Obvious nothing was there. Well, I guess to the eye. I'm looking through the viewfinder. I thought maybe for a moment I saw something, but you know, this thing's black and white, and it's, if you've ever used one, you'd understand how difficult it is. Dismissed it. Couldn't see anything really, you know. It was just like that another brief moment where I thought maybe I saw something moving. Now, I'm not thinking ghosts. I'm not thinking anything like that. I'm just a basic camera geek at this point. Do my panning. Fulton Monument still in view. Do another pan. Eventually it's out of view. I get home though. Buddy decides, hey, why don't we pop that tape in? Alright. We get to that one point. I think I was up getting something from the refrigerator or whatever it was. He's like, what the fuck is that? Going, what? That. And I look on the screen. It was obvious, color being on a color TV now, that he didn't even really have to point it out. You could see in front of the monument that there's something moving. The size of a brick or whatever, you know. This thing was a solid black. And it's just, it's doing this, and it's bouncing too. It's like just kind of like, I gotta see it, right? And I pan that one moment. This thing's still there, doing its thing. Now before I pan out though, it's near kind of like the lower bottom, foot or two off the ground, but it's near that bottom area, and it goes past the stone. So people that used to review this video were like, "Oh, you were messing with something. You do put something there, didn't you?" And yeah, right. So when it moves past the stone, so to speak, and it's like not like in front of it, it's going to the side. Now you see like all the way around this thing. You're like, there's no cables or wires or any weird stuff, right? You get a good view of this thing. It's just so-called levitating, I guess you can call it, right? It goes around the headstone, but in air. Also, it's solid black and fairly decent size. I knew right then and there. I mean, I recalled that moment. I looked with my eyes. Now, something you would see on video like that, you would think, oh no, damn it, there's no way you can miss that with your eyes, even if you were even farther away from where I was standing. Convinced. Not thinking ghosts, per se, but convinced that there's something paranormal going on, something out of the ordinary, and that maybe there's something going on that needs to be looked at. I grew up for a period of time during my junior high years in Orland Park, and it actually shares a border with Orland Hills, that kind of area. Orland Bowling alley, that area, kind of. New subdivision we moved in. So the crazy stuff I saw there was way crazier than this little black thing. But I'm familiar with the weird and unusual, and I wanted answers. And when I saw that, I said to myself, maybe I can find the answers here. I'm not sure if I really found answers yet. I got theories. There's evidence. All things considered, even that video cassette is considered physical evidence. And for people that are like, well, you could have faked that, I don't give a fuck about you saying that. Because you don't fucking matter. Go out there and do your own shit then. You're just a fucking little, I don't know, fucking pain in the ass. People that really want to be looking into this stuff, they don't need to be faking their own shit. They're really looking for answers? Why the fuck would they fake their own shit? Why would I spend the next 14 years, out here doing stuff? Not necessarily investigating the paranormal and all that kind of stuff, but why would I? Anyway. Physical evidence. Something to look at, something to review, something to keep looking at. Especially if you get into the science of how did this black void you couldn't see with the eye show up on film. It's the best way I could describe it, as a black void of some kind. It wasn't shape of a person. Anyway, I'm gonna roll a cigarette. So, when that videotape was looked at, another phone call was placed to somebody else because we wanted to come back out here. And had a skeptical friend. Passing interest. I don't know. Whatever. But he had a nice 35mm camera. He came out here. He met us out here. Another daylight visit. And figured, well, okay, apparently you can capture weird stuff on film. So, to a degree, it's kind of on my mind. There's a lot of stuff falling from these trees. Pollen season. So my buddy's out there taking his snapshots. And I realized, you know what if he gets it on 35mm film? Because he started off with just filming headstones or whatever, taking shots of those. Then he started getting widescreen stuff. And then when I saw him doing the widescreen stuff, I thought, well, maybe if I get something on video, maybe at the time he takes a picture, I can look at both. There's just one point where, near the center of the cemetery, kind of facing west, the sun's in view, so you're getting a lens flare, whatever. But the camera started to malfunction. I'm a techie. I know electronics. I can build circuit boards and all that shit, right? Anyway, this camera started to malfunction, and internally, not lens flare related, but internally the processing was becoming washed out. Gears are twitching. A lot of physical noises from the stuff in there. Caught me off guard. Knew how abnormal this was. If you ever play the video back with the audio, you can probably even hear it in my voice. I was a little disturbed. Not scared, but disturbed. I was like, what are you doing? Because the rational mind is just thinking maybe he's doing something that I don't know of. You know. But anyway, it was pretty obvious he wasn't causing this. And what happens with this particular camera is it is sensitive. It's like two-way radios. If you get within a foot or two, like if you have one on your hip and you're holding this camera and you would transmit, you would get that same noise for a moment. And the video would twitch and whatnot. And if you got the transmitter closer, you can get a similar effect of it being washed out, but nowhere near what this did. Convinced again, something abnormal, messing with electronics. Whoa, spider on the camera. Yeah. Incidentally though, years later, that video, out of request of somebody out west, he passed away recently. He wanted footage of certain things. So I actually sent him this footage with my brief description of what was occurring, what I feel is occurring from a technical perspective. Didn't hear anything back. And a couple years later, I find him mentioning it in a newsletter. And some military guy came up with the same conclusion, that there was a very localized electromagnetic signal of some kind, at the very least. Some people like to call, hey, the sun did it. Well, you gotta review it. There's no sun. Because this ain't this ain't the last time this particular camera and other equipment has malfunctioned. And if you've been a visitor here, you've experienced malfunctions. Some explainable. Some that would just blow your fucking mind. So, how much memory I got here? I could probably only go as long as the memory lasts. More people coming in. So time goes on. People know I have an interest in this kind of stuff. They have an interest. Maybe not as obsessive as mine, but so one night, while the car pull off by the pond was still available, we picked this particular night because for Windy City this was dead quiet. I don't even think there was, 1 mile an hour, zero. It felt like zero, man. Nice and warm, perfect night. Go to the pull off, we park, come walking in, all through the woods area. We get to that hole in the gate that's by the pond. Pass through the gate. Can't explain this, but I have a theory, maybe a little bit. It's like it felt like somebody turned on one of those Hollywood commercial fans, big blasting fans. And the cold that I experienced actually like hurt. And this is in the summer. No wind. And it just so happened that happened just for a brief second. Or two, whatever. Both looked at each other. That was pretty fucking weird. Laughed a little bit. And that was the start of our night. Keep walking. We're on the west end of the cemetery at that point. We're walking south, and it's great to retell these stories when I look at the cemetery. We're walking south and start to do the loop thing, circle thing. Back then, the path, there wasn't much of a path around the cemetery. It was just all overgrowth. So, we ended up parting ways in the cemetery. I was looping around, got to the east end, southeast end, and going up to the northeast end, walking toward the Fulton monument. And as I'm between the Fulton monument and the shield stone, this camera, the same VHS Panasonic, was powering down. And it has a unique little sound to it, not distinct, whatever. And you hear all the gears moving, the belts and stuff as you power this thing down. See what's going on. I thought, man, that's fucking weird. Was the battery? Usually the battery's going dead. At first it lets me know. And then the shutdown, sometimes it'll go into a shutdown, sometimes it'll just die. But anyway, it already powered off. I had this big battery pack at the time. These things were like, I don't know, 10 inches long. These were those big 12-volt packs. Took one out of my back pocket there. Swapped it out. Camera wasn't powering on. I thought, fuck, man, this thing broke? I shouldn't even have had that camera in there at night. You can't see shit anyway, but I had it. So I'm walking away, still hitting the fucking button. I'm got a dozen or more feet away. Fucking power's on. Alright, cool. That's not broke. Do my walk thing again. Get back to the same spot. I do this about 2 or 3 times before I realized this same exact spot, it's powering down, right? There's something fucked up going on. This is not normal. I go find my buddy. He's actually near the gates at the time. Tell him about the incident. he's giving me the yeah thing, not really listening or not caring, whatever the case may be. Said, oh, you know what? Let's back up. I said, well, next time it happens, take a picture of me. It still gives me the yeah thing. I go, no, okay, I'm going to go over it right now. Because part of me is just kind of like, you know, he's just not fucking buying it. So it kind of irked me a little bit. Like, fuck it. I mean, I'm convinced it was obvious that if you walked there, the camera would fucking power down. So I turned it on, went by him. So I'm gonna walk over there right now, get the camera ready. Camera power's on, I'm walking in there. On cue, man. Camera's powering down. I yell over him, take the picture, it's happening again. Huh? Take the picture, it's happening again. He's just kind of like, yeah. And he raises his camera, takes one shot, here, go off. Reloads. Takes the other shot. Now, he developed this film, and one shot, you don't really see much of anything. It's just me standing there with a camera. But in the second shot, looks like a robe-ass looking figure. Now, I didn't know the stories yet. About people reporting robe-looking figures that would occasionally disappear on them right in front of their eyes. We're not talking so-called Satan worshiping, you know, all that kind of stuff people claim they run into out here. We're talking about robe-looking figures that are there and just poof, poof, gone. You could dismiss the photo. I don't. But you can't dismiss that kind of electronic malfunction or interaction with electronics like that. I feel it's worthy of study. As it turns out, that particular spot and a couple others here tend to mess with electronic equipment. So if you want to increase your odds, there are some spots. Definitely are some spots. Probably running out of memory. Anyway. Do a video for another day. Hopefully, somebody out there that's smart can take some of the information I will be giving and go with it. Maybe you can discover something, find an answer. We shall see.